Please remember to like this video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video. Also, in the description of this video, you can find my compiled link. Through there, you can find my YouTube channel, Patreon, email, Your Playmat affiliate link, TCG Player affiliate link, Discord, Twitter, TikTok, and Non-Magic the Gathering YouTube channel, the CJ. Thank you for watching. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a First Thoughts today. This First Thoughts is on Falco Spara, Pactweaver. This is a very interesting card, new card from Streets of New Capenna, and I'm excited about this one. This one's really cool. It gives you like a Future Sight style effect where you can cast spells off the top of your library by removing counters from creatures you control. So ideally you want to have creatures with counters that you want to remove anyways, so that way you can benefit extra on it. But there's not too many of those. I have a category for those, and otherwise you're just going to want to have counter synergies, and you have top of the library manipulation synergies, and cards that work well if you can know the top card of your library. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do with this commander, and I'm excited about it. Like, this is a really, really cool commander. Categories I'm going to be talking about today. I've got a little combo I want to talk about first, and then we have cards that counter cards, specifically cards that are good creatures that have bad counters on them that you want to remove, or not necessarily bad counters, but counters if you remove them, then you get extra benefit from the creature. Then you have other ways to put counters on creatures, just generically, mostly +1/+1 counters. You have ways to capitalize on those counters. You have ways to control the top card of your library, and ways to capitalize on being able to know what the top card of your library is. Then you have a bunch of one-off cards. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So, the combo that I want to start off with, Devoted Druid and Sensei's Divining Top. You can put a -1/-1 counter on Devoted Druid to untap it. So you tap it for green, you play Sensei's Divining Top, you tap Sensei's Divining Top to put it on the top of your library and draw a card. You untap Devoted Druid, putting a -1/-1 counter on it. You use Falco Spara to take that -1/-1 counter off, tap Devoted Druid for green, and cast the Sensei's Divining Top again from the top of your library. And then redoing that over and over and over again, letting you draw through your entire deck. And win from there. You can use Jace to do it, you can use Laboratory Maniac, Thassa's Oracle, any of those cards to just win the game. Next, we're going to talk about creatures that have counters that you want to remove. Cards like Glenalendra. You can counter spells, remove the counter more spells, remove the counter. Seems good. Grazing Kelpie, good graveyard hate card there. Benthic Biomancer, really cool. Whenever a counter, so you can adapt it, put a counter on it, draw a card, and then remove the counter to cast a card off the top of your library. Then you can adapt it again, and so on and so forth. You have Fathom Mage, so it'll evolve, and then you can unevolve it, so that way it evolves again easily, and you can draw cards off of that. Lost Auramancers if you can get rid of all the vanishing counters, it'll let you go and search your library for an enchantment and put it into play. That seems pretty fantastic. Luminous Broodmoth, great board protection card here. And if your creatures die, you can remove the flying counter that Luminous Broodmoth would put on them to then cast spells, and then they would need another flying counter to die. So you're just able to kind of protect your board very well. Musician, very interesting card here. That could be very good. Cumulative upkeep, being able to remove the age counter, so that way it never increases, can net you some good utility. Thing in the Ice, being able to flip it faster, seems pretty good. Wall of Roots, another mana dork similar to Devoted Druid. Then you have Kithkin Spell Duster, pretty cool card here, good removal. Woodfall Primus, fantastic removal here. Survivor of the Unseen, very interesting card, and it seems perfect for this deck. It's got cumulative upkeep, so you would remove the age counters, and you can tap it to draw 2 cards and put one card from your hand in the top of your library. So whatever card you want to cast from the top of your library or play from the top of your library, you can just put back on top, and you get to draw 2 cards. That seems very good. And the last one is Sustaining Spirit. Sustaining Spirit's a pretty cool card. It would make it so it's very hard for you to die. Since it's got cumulative upkeep, remove the age counters, just 2 mana to keep it around, and your life total can't go below 1. Seems pretty good. And yeah, so those are all the creatures that I could come up with that had counters on them that you'd want to remove. Also, a lot of those seem to work very well with sack outlets, because like Luminous Broodmoth, you can sack it, gets a flying counter, remove the flying counter, sack it, stuff like that. So some sack outlets you might want to throw into the deck include Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, and Altar Dementia. Those are just my go-tos for sack outlets. They're very powerful cards. And like Woodfall Primus, being able to sack it, bring it back, blow something up, remove the counter, sack it, bring it back, blow something up, remove the counter. Seems really, really, really powerful. Great synergies there. Next, I'm going to talk about ways you can put other counters onto your creatures so that way you can remove them. These are going to be mostly +1/+1 counters just because they're easier to come across and there's more synergies. So those cards include Karn's Bastion. This technically proliferates, so you need counters already on there, but it's on a land, so it's very convenient. Luminarch Aspirant, Bosri's Solidarity, that's a pretty neat one. You can use Arcus Acolyte to Outlast. It gives all your creatures Outlast, so you just pay 1 mana to put a counter on them. That seems pretty decent, so it's just like a 1 mana tax for every spell you play off the top of your library. There's Avabrook Caretaker. It's got hexproof. It puts counters at the beginning of combat. If you flip it, it gives everything hexproof, and it puts out counters on everything. That seems like a fantastic include. Avenger Zendikar. Amazing card here. Creates tons of tokens and puts counters on all of them. Broker's Confluence and Broker's Ascendancy. Both seem pretty powerful in the deck. Cathar's Crusade. Especially if you're going heavy on creatures. This seems fantastic. Contagion Engine, more proliferate, always good. Deep Glow Skate, you can just double the number of counters on all the creatures you control. Felidar Retreat, another way, just landfall counters, boom, happy, or tokens if you need tokens at the time. Good utility. Forgotten Ancient can just get very big, and then you can move those counters around however you want to. Mikaeus, very good card to just put counters on everything. Then you have Shalai. Shalai seems very powerful for this deck, just having the activated ability to put counters on everything, and it gives protection. You've got Silk Guard, another good protection card that you can use to put counters on stuff. Sword of Truth and Justice, more proliferate. You have the Great Henge, which is card draw, life gain, ramp, and counters all in one. Auto include, fantastic card. Vigor seems very powerful in this deck as well. And next, we're going to talk about cards that capitalize on these counters, just good synergies with counters. Animation Module, you can make a lot of dudes. Bajri's Lieutenant, make a lot of dudes. Armorcraft Judge, draw a lot of cards. You have Bread for the Hunt, more card draw. Hamza, make your spells cheaper. Sigarda's Summons, just make your creatures scary. Big creatures, yes. You've got Kodama, being able to ramp you, seems pretty cool. And Damning Verdict, just destroy all the creatures without counters. Your board's going to be full of counters. It's going to be a one-sided board wipe most of the time. Then, we got Top Deck Manipulation. You're going to want to be able to control the top card of your library. You're going to want to be able to shuffle it, so that way you can switch what the top card of your library is. So you're going to want a lot of these cards. Sensei's Divining Top, as I already mentioned. Auto include in this deck. You have Fetch Lands. Those seem great in the deck, just because you can play a fetch, see what's on top of your library. If you don't want it, you can crack the fetch. See, just an easy way to shuffle. Corsair Crewfix, Oracle Moldiah, wow, and Augur of Autumn. All that you play lands off the top of your library, so that can help you by removing lands off the top of your library and being able to just manipulate it that way. Brainstorm, and Scroll Rack all let you put cards from your hand onto the top of your library, so you can kind of mess around with it that way, which seems pretty useful. You have Congregation at Dawn, which tutors to the top of your library. 3 creatures. Really powerful card there. I think it's super underplayed. It's very useful. Cream of the Crop, another good card. Enlightened Tutor, Mystical Tutor, Worldly Tutor, and Sylvan Tutor will also all tutor stuff to the top of your library, which is very convenient. You have False Morning and Noxious Revival, can bring stuff from your graveyard back to the top of your library. Pretty cool there. Same thing with Huatua. That's an underrated card. That card's pretty cool. You've got Sylvan Library and Miri's Guile, so you can kind of manipulate the top a little bit. Penance, another way you can put cards from your hand onto the top of your library if you want to. And Pixis of Pandemonium, you just tap it to exile top card of your library if you want to just get past that card. Next, I'm going to talk about cards that work really well with the top deck manipulation. Like if you control the top card of your library, these cards become a lot better. And since you can already look at the top card of your library whenever you want, these cards become a lot better. Cards like Counterbalance or Swindler's Scheme, very good there. Tamiyo seems pretty sweet. Same thing with Nissa, Steward of Elements. Amaranth, love this idea. Conundrum Sphinx, also a pretty cool card. Selvala, the Parlay Selvala, seems good. Zoologist, I hadn't seen this card before I started doing this deck tech, and that seems like a really cool include. God Eternal Kefnet can be very powerful in this deck. And same thing with Lurking Predators. Those two especially, if you can manipulate the top of your library, like Lurking Predators, just being able to like senseis to make it so there's a creature always on top, seems really good. And next, we're on to the one-off cards. Simic Ascendancy. You're going to be putting counters on a lot of things. Why not win the game off doing that? Counter doublers, like Doubling Season and Vorinclex. Both those seem fantastic. And if you go heavy on +1/+1 counters, you got Branching Evolution. And you can also throw in Primal Vigor. Also cards like Conclave Mentor, Hardened Scales, Pier and Toothy are both very good. All those cards seem like great includes, especially the +1/+1 countered ones if you lean heavily into the +1/+1 counter synergies. Next, we have other ways to remove counters from creatures you control, because that can be good. You can get some good extra value off doing that. Cards like Chisei, Power Conduit, and Sanctuary Warden all could provide some upside there, and it seems interesting. Then you have cards that can protect your counters if your creatures die, like the Ozolith and Resourceful Defense. Resourceful Defense is a new card, and I think this is going to be a very powerful card. It's cool. You have Bloodline Shaman, which is a really interesting card. If you know what's the top card of your library, you can tap it to basically draw a card if it's a creature. It seems nice, so you can kind of manipulate it that way. Then there's a few cards that work really well with you casting cards off the top of your library, because you're casting them from not your hand. Those include Vega the Watcher, See the Truth, and Sage of the Beyond. All three of those are definitely auto-includes in this deck. Cauldron of Souls puts persist counters on things when they die. That seems like a good idea. You can remove those counters and then boom. It's just a way to keep your creatures alive, and then you can remove the counters and give them persist again in the future. It seems good. Endless Detour seems like a great card in this deck because it's both removal, it's like a counter spell, but can also save something for yourself, because you can like Endless Detour your own thing to the top of your library, which you can then cast. Seems good. And then Together Forever, just another good way to save things that have counters on them when they die. Like if you got a bunch of creatures with +1/+1 counters and a board wipe, you can use Together Forever to bring some back to your hand. Seems pretty good. And that is everything I have for Falco Spara. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.